What is interesting is that we're starting to see some movement of the leaves and debris. I am back up on the ladder. It is Thanksgiving 2022, so the end of November. I thought I'd take a couple minutes to go through and take a look at the different gutter guard systems. Most of the leaves have fallen off the trees. As a result, most of the leaves have fallen off the roof and the gutter guard systems. So I think it's important to highlight the systems where leaves and debris remain on top of the gutter guards, because this is probably how it's going to remain for the balance of the winter and into the spring of next year. So stay tuned and I'll show you what's going on. This is solid gutter cover on the south side of the garage. So this is at the easternmost position. You can see the top of the gutter guard is completely clear. There's no debris sitting on top of it. And it hasn't always been that way, but because it's got the solid surface and really not giving any resistance on the top side, it's done a very effective job shedding the leaves and debris off the top of the gutter guards. However, that's kind of where the story ends in terms of its beneficial performance. What you can see here along the front, there's like a white area here. So so you understand, there's basically this slot is an opening into the gutter. Because it's made out of this plastic, it actually is a very wide bar that connects between the gutter guard itself and then the lip of the gutter. So I don't know why it's so wide, honestly, but probably for support reasons, because it's a plastic or PVC system. But in between that area, what do you see? You see a bunch of leaves and debris. You see some pine needles, and it goes all the way across. Down at this end even, there's some remnants from the spring where we had the locust flowers that come down. They eventually decay and kind of turn into gunk there. So there's still some down here, and then on the left hand side you can see a pine needle sticking out, some more of the locust leaves. So it's mostly the small debris that gets through. Think of a pine needle, think of a small leaf, anything that's small enough to fit into that slot. In terms of bigger leaves, I don't really see anything here. So there's no oak leaves, no maple leaves, nothing of any magnitude. But when you have small leaves and debris in your yard, I think this is a good indicator as to why you might want to skip a system like this. So this is the solid gutter cover. This is a DIY product that's available at Home Depot and Lowe's and various hardware stores around the country. It's an affordable system, and again, it does an excellent job keeping the leaves off the top, but it does not do so well with the stuff that when it gets stuck into the slot across the front. This is RainDrop on the south side of the garage. You can see that most of the debris has cleared off the top. We have a random stem from a leaf that is dangling out of the cover. We've got a few pine needles that are doing the same, and a few leaves across here. So this has, in recent times, done a pretty good job of getting the material off the top of the gutter guard. So that's a good sign. I just want to poke inside here and see if we can see anything. I don't know if we're going to see it. I brought out a flashlight today. You can see my little flashlight here. See if we can get any indication as to what's going on inside, but probably with the sun angle, we're not going to really see in there. When I look inside there, there's definitely all this stuff is inside the gutter. Question is how much of that stuff has gotten inside. So I think their claim has always been that some small stuff will get through. It's just a matter of, does enough of that small stuff get through to clog up the downspout, which in this case is right here in the middle of this piece of gutter. So in terms of what's sitting on top, it's doing a pretty effective job. At one point recently, there was a bunch of stuff sitting up here. I think one of the advantages of this is if the debris doesn't get lodged into the channels, in between the channels, that it's just a smooth finish. It will allow a lot of that stuff to move off the top of it. I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. I appreciate you for watching this video. so far. I hope you find it informational. And before I get you back to the programming, I just wanted to take a moment. I'm Jonathan with Gutter Guards Direct. We've been helping homeowners solve their gutter and water problems since 1996. I started this video series in 2020 as a way to help homeowners better discern what gutter protection systems really work. There's obviously a lot of hype in the market. There's a lot of products on the market, way more products today than there ever were in the past, and I've always thought there were way too many gutter protection systems on the market. So this series is really my effort to help myself understand what are the best systems on the market, but by turning it into the Ultimate Gutter Guard Challenge on YouTube, it also helps you figure out what are the best systems for your particular environment. And again, I hope you're enjoying this video. Before I send you back to the programming, I wanted to take a moment and let you know that we also install gutters and gutter guards. And the guttering portion of it is generally in conjunction with installing the gutter guards. So we're not necessarily chasing gutter installation work by itself, but we will do it again if we are installing gutter guards on your home. And we service all of Ohio. We service Southeast Michigan, so Greater Detroit and Ann Arbor areas. We do Greater Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to the east. To the west, we go as far as Greater Indianapolis and points a little bit north of Indianapolis, and pretty much south of there down to the Cincinnati and kind of Louisville, Kentucky areas. So anywhere kind of along the Ohio and northern Kentucky border. We service Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky, and then really any point in between those markets from Ohio all the way down to Tennessee, where we service Greater Nashville, Greater Knoxville, and occasionally we'll even visit Chattanooga. So if you live in any of these markets and you are interested in a free assessment at your home and a free estimate, feel free to give us a call at 1-800-750-2131. Again, that's 1-800-750-2131 for your free in-home estimate. Thanks, and back to the programming. This is our baseline or our open gutter on the south side of the garage. So you can see here we have a lot of debris, a lot of pine needles, a lot of stems off the locust tree here that the leaves used to stick to. Some leaves in there, a variety type. And this gutter by and large is full. Obviously you can see a little bit of the metal on the back side there, so it's not completely full, but over here to the right, for instance, it is. And that's what you would expect along this entire run. Really probably on this is the south side of the garage, but you'd probably expect much the same, maybe even a little bit worse on the north side. So it is interesting to see how much stuff builds up inside the gutter over the course of a season from spring to summer to fall, when you have most of the activity. Obviously now that all the leaves have fallen off the trees, we're not going to see any more activity for the balance of the year. So if these were your gutters, obviously you'd have to come up here and clean these things out by hand. And then the question is, what, if any, gutter guards do you put on top of them? So this should give you a pretty good idea of the environment in which these gutter guards are sitting and what you would expect if you didn't have gutter guards of any sort on top of your gutters. This is HydroFlo. It is a product that's available at a wholesale level at various gutter supply houses, home improvement type places, but more at a wholesale level. And it is a system that we've we put up here earlier this year to kind of see how it compares. Its claim is that it's a leaf filter substitute or a leaf filter killer, and I would say it's working in a very similar fashion to LeafFilter. So I think the killer portion of it, or the substitute portion, is because it's made out of aluminum instead of a plastic framework. So it does have that going for it, but because it installs within the gutter, you can see in this particular application how much leaves and debris are sitting on top of it. Now, what is interesting is that we're starting to see some movement of the leaves and debris. So mostly you're looking at locust leaves, you're seeing pine needles, and then you're seeing some of the stems that held the locust leaves in place across here. So there's not a lot of big leaves sitting on top. In fact, well, there's a couple maybe down here on the left-hand side. Sorry, my camera. I'm up here at a time when the sun is in the wrong spot for me, but it's mostly small stuff that's sitting on top of here at this moment, but you can see where the screen is shining through right here in the middle. So that might be a good indication for this system, that as these leaves dry up over the course of the fall and into the winter, that it is possible that we would see some more shedding of that debris off the top of it. But at this moment, I feel like this stuff is here to stay, but time will tell. This is the upside down cheese grater on the south side of the garage. You can see it's done a pretty effective job with the leaves and debris. This one, the way it works is it's got a series of, if you think about a cheese grater, you know, the cheese grater, obviously when you're shredding the cheese or slicing the cheese, it's got an upward louver on it, and you run the cheese across it. This one is just that cheese grater flipped upside down. So the smooth part, or the back side of the cheese grater, is what has revealed itself here. So it has a relatively smooth surface on the top side, but then you have a series of downward louvers that's supposed to drive the water through. And what you can see here, in addition to driving the water through, it will also allow some of the debris to get stuck on top. So again, we've got a lot of small leaves here with the locust tree that kind of overhangs the backyard. And then we've got pine needles from the pine tree that's just here on the west side of the garage overhanging. So the smaller the debris, probably the worse the system would be for you. What we don't know at this point, you know, you can see like literally the 4 or 5 pine needles sticking up through that slot. So it was able to work its way in there. It's holding on. At some point that may release and go inside the gutter. Here are a couple other examples of the same situation, both from a leaf debris standpoint and from the pine needle standpoint. How much of that stuff is pushed through into the gutter, we will not know until we take it off next spring. This one on the south side of the garage also has the dirtiest face to it, so it's usually an indication that water has transitioned off of the guard itself onto the face of the gutter, and that is something that we'll have to kind of factor in, but we'll see that next time we do a water test here. So in terms of the big stuff, it seems like it's done an effective job allowing that to shift off the top. Because it slides up under the first course of shingles, it has a nice angle to it, and that's important, as we found out with these gutter guard systems. Here we're looking at Valor on the south side of the garage. This version of Valor, I think this is the only system that we have 2 of them installed. So on the south side here, it's up underneath the first course of shingles. On the north side of the garage, it is sitting within the gutter itself, which is actually how we received the material. So we modified the back of it. We actually flattened the back. Here you can see, here's where the turn was. There's a little embossing there in the back of that panel. So that used to sit up at a 90-degree turn. We just slid it up underneath the shingles after we flattened it, and that's really helped this system in terms of its ability to shed the leaves and debris. So here on the south side, it's done an effective job moving the leaves and debris off the top of it, but I will say, because it has a more porous screen, it is also allowing some of those pine needles to get stuck in there and or pass through the screen into the gutter. So it's too early to say. We won't know until we take the gutter guard off how much stuff actually got inside the gutter, but clearly that screen, that porosity of that screen, is allowing the leaves and debris to get through. Maybe not the leaves so much, but certainly the pine needles in this case, and any small organic matter that would just naturally transition off the roof, including the shingle granules. This is MasterShield on the north side of the garage. When I was last up here a few weeks ago, we had a whole clump of leaves and debris, pine needles, sitting over in this area, probably in the, I said 8 to 10 inches. It could have been up to a foot of the screen surface, and you can see now it is pretty much free and clear. We still have, again, just a little bit of stuff sitting over in that left-hand corner. If this were just a continuous run instead of a series of multiple sections of gutter, you wouldn't have anything sitting up here. So I think that's a good indicator and continues to be a good sign that this system is doing an excellent job shedding the leaves and debris off the top of the gutters. Really nothing up here. There's maybe a couple random pine needles that are just transitioning off the roof and might be apt to sit up there. And then again over here on this left-hand side where you see the transition, this gutter's actually sitting a fair bit lower than the one that holds LeafFilter next to it. So this is part of our long-term test. This one has been up here now for just about 3 years and continues to do a very good job. Actually, continues to do an excellent job shedding the leaves and debris off the top of it. This is LeafFilter, also part of our long-term test on the north side of the garage. And you can see it has a lot of leaves and debris sitting on top of the screen. Just as a perspective, you can see the actual gutter guard surface area and then the roof line behind it. So it's probably this much screen and quite a bit more of the roof where the debris is sitting. But what this tells you, what this should indicate, is that the because it's sitting flatter inside the gutter, as the leaves and debris shift off the roof, because it tapers off, it essentially flattens out at the bottom. It's not easy for that debris to shift off the roof and then off the gutter guard. It just kind of gets down here and gets wedged on top of the gutter there. So a lot of debris sitting on top of LeafFilter. At this time, we've had some pretty heavy winds in recent weeks. I think one day I was out here, we had at least 40-mile-an-hour gusts of winds with sustained winds in the 20-mile-an-hour range. And this is what you still have up here after all that time. This is Klean Gutter on the north side of the garage. This was our 2022 winter. It was located on the south side of the garage. Now it's on the north side of the garage. And you can see there's definitely some stuff still sitting up here on the roof and on the gutter guard itself. Like any of these micro mesh systems, well, not any of them, but any of the systems that have a really fine screen like this one does, it's not that stuff is actually stuck into the screen or that it's sticking to the screen in some way. It's more or less just loosely sitting on top of it. Because this is an all screen design, has probably the widest screen area, or one of the widest screen areas of any of the ones up here. And that means that as soon as the water transitions off the roof, it's able to go inside there. So I anticipate that even though we've got debris sitting on top of it, that most of that water is able to go through. I'm not sure that all of it will, and we'll find that out later when we do some water tests with it. But there's definitely stuff sitting on top of it at this point. And as you can see here, you know, you've got 4 or 5 inches, 4 inches maybe, of exposed area. And then you've got all this area back here. So like the LeafFilter system next to it, there is quite a bit of stuff sitting up at the roof, but you can see a lot more of the screen exposed. And I would anticipate most of the water would pass through that system when it is raining, despite stuff sitting up here. So be interesting to see. This did a better job on the south side of the garage than it's doing on the north side in terms of the leaves and debris. It was one where there was almost never anything sitting on top of it. So it goes to show you that just by moving it from one side of a building to another, how it can make a big difference in its performance in terms of the stuff that's sitting on top of it. This is Valor on the north side of the garage. So this is the only system where we have currently 2 versions of the same product installed. On the south side, we flattened the back on it so we could slide it up under the first course of the shingles. On this version, this is how we got it when we purchased it, and it is screwed in on the front lip and then up at a little bit of an angle and screwed to the fascia board on the back side. And honestly, that's the only way that I've seen this product installed, this version. I have never seen anybody install it up under the first course of shingles. So, and I've seen a lot of videos of this product and some of its sibling products. So because it lives within the gutter, this is probably what you can expect in an area like this, which has got several trees, none of which are truly overhanging the garage. I mean, that pine tree is, and I guess that locust tree is darn close. It's probably more so on the south side, but the maple off to the left is not really overhanging, but obviously we're getting all that stuff off those trees onto the roof, and then they slide down onto the gutter guard itself. So much in the same way, if we just kind of look across, this is LeafFilter, that one with a bunch of stuff on it. That's Klean Gutter. While we're at it, I guess, MasterShield at the end, LeafFilter, Klean Gutter, Valor. So if you look at the LeafFilter there, and then you look at Valor, basically the same. This may have a little bit more stuff sitting up at the roof level, and the only bit of screen that you can see is right there in the middle, to show you that it's actually Valor. So nobody will know what this thing looks like underneath until either this stuff shifts off the top of it or we take it off in the spring to kind of reveal not only how much stuff was left on top of it, but how much stuff got inside the gutter guard. This is GutterDome on the north side of the garage. You can see some debris sitting on top of it. This is probably similar to the Klean Gutter system in that the screen is relatively fine, so I'm not overly worried about, say, the pine needles getting stuck in there. However, this screen I think is a little more porous than the Klean Gutter system, and I actually have seen some pine needles, just the tips of the pine needles kind of stuck in the screen there. So it's possible that we might have some pine needles over here that have lodged in there vertically, and it's catching the debris as it comes off the roof behind it and stopped it in its tracks. But you know, you can also see a fair bit of the screen that is open and available to take in the water. This is Armour guard on the north side of the garage. You can see the screen is mostly clean. A little bit of maybe a single pine needle down at that end with something else, a leaf that's kind of sitting on top of the screen as you come over here to the right. Very little stuff sitting on top of it. So again, kind of at the transition between the Armour guard and the GutterDome, you got a little bit of stuff kind of wedged in between and sitting on the right-hand side of the screen. This has a similar screen, maybe slightly more porous even than the GutterDome system. So we've definitely seen some pine needles in the past stuck inside there, mostly the pointy ends of the pine needle, and that has allowed some of those leaves to get stuck behind it. But right now, I don't really see anything. I mean, maybe there's a pine needle off here on the right that's wedged in there, but by and large, it's not in there, and it's doing a very good job of keeping the leaves and debris off the top of the gutter guard surface. Another thing about this application is that we flattened the back on it and we slid it up under the first course of shingles. This is actually a 5-inch version, and because we've got 6-inch gutters, it was not long enough to be installed within the gutter the way that it was designed to. So what we'll end up doing next year is reinstalling it the way that it was designed to be installed, which means we're going to have to take the 6-inch gutter off and install it with a 5-inch gutter. Alternatively, if we can find a 6-inch version of it, then we will get our hands on that and also install it within the gutter. So what we actually did was we put an extension piece on the back of it. So there's an extra piece of metal that essentially slides over the gutter guard, and that's what holds it in place on the back side. And I'm pretty sure that I've seen that application on their website as an alternative way of installing it on the gutter. So we went ahead and did that, and it's helped a lot with the leaves and debris, because I think had it been sitting flat inside the gutter or flatter inside the gutter like LeafFilter and Valor, we would look like those systems down there, which in this case are the second slot and the fourth slot. So it's gotten a bit of a break, I think, from the leaves and debris perspective, based on the fact that we had to modify the way that it was installed. Had we installed it the way that we had received it, again, I think it would look like the other systems. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons and ding the bell, and you'll be notified the next time we upload a video. So you can see that we're getting some water dripping from the bottom of the system.